Hello, Chancellor Merkel. This is me, Ayub Hamidi, from the platform of projectgreenearth.org from Stockholm, Sweden. Through this short video presentation, I would really like to appreciate the efforts, the energy, and the political attention and financial resources that you have invested into the sector of renewables in Germany from year 2005 onwards till 2019, and the way the share of renewable energy when it comes to total power production, electricity production in Germany has observed an exponential growth since 2005 till 2019. For example, when you came into the office as the Chancellor of Germany for the first time in 2005, the share of renewables in the total power production was 11.4%. From that point onwards, it started grow. First, in the beginning, the growth was very slow, but then with the passage of time, it observed an exponential growth. For example, in 2006, Germany produced 12.6% of total electricity from renewables. In 2010, it was 19.2. In 2013, it escalated to 27.3%. Followed by 2017, where Germany produced actually 38.2% of its total electricity from clean sources of power production. And lastly, in 2019, for the first 6 months, if I remember it correctly, Germany actually managed to produce 45.9% or roughly 46% of its total electricity from clean sources of power production. That is excellent. Congratulations, you've done an awesome job. During the same time period, for example, in 2005, Germany used to rely on nuclear power for like around 29% of total electricity. In 2019, Germany produced only 13.9% of its electricity from nuclear power. So the reliance on nuclear power was only 13.7%. So Germany actually reduced reliance on nuclear power by up to 50% if we would compare it from 2005 onwards. So was the case with the hard coal. Like in 2005, Germany produced 21% of its electricity from hard coal. In 2019, it was 9.5%. That is beautiful. An area that Germany might need to work on is to reduce its reliance on brown coal, that is lignite. Because in 2005, Germany produced like 26% of its electricity from brown coal, whereas in 2019, the reliance on brown coal was 24%. You're doing an excellent job, but there is always a room for improvement. Reducing reliance on brown coal eventually to a point where hard coal, brown coal, and nuclear power would be eliminated from the power equation in Germany is a thing that you're already striving for, but is a thing that you need to increase your pace to achieve this. Like, let's say in year 2030, or why not by 2028, it's possible for you. If you can manage to escalate the share of renewables from 11.4% in 2005 to 45.9% in 2019, I'm pretty sure you can actually manage to produce 100% clean electricity by year 2030 for Germany. And that would be a very remarkable step for your political administration, for Germany and EU28 as a whole. Another thing that I would like to appreciate that you carried out under your administration in Germany was like from 2005 onwards till 2019, Germany added 88 gigawatts of installed capacity or power generation capacity in its cumulative power generation capacity in Germany. So for example, in 2005, the cumulative installed capacity was roughly 122 gigawatts. In 2019, it was 210 gigawatts. So plus 88 gigawatts of installed capacity was increased. And simultaneously, Germany managed to produce 46% of clean electricity in the first 6 months of 2019. So this is really incredible. A thing that rest of the EU, United States, South Africa, Poland, Australia really needs to follow in order to abide by the Paris Climate Agreement and to reduce emissions that all of the countries have voluntarily agreed to reduce. So it is eliminating hard coal, brown coal, and nuclear power from the energy equation or the power production equation in Germany is actually possible. For example, if you would maintain a 4% growth in the renewable energy sector in Germany between 2020 to 2030, during those 11 years, another 44% of an increase in the renewable energy sector in Germany would be possible. Combine that 44% with the already 46%, and Germany would roughly produce 90% of its total electricity from clean sources by 2030. If the clean energy sector would experience a 5% growth between year 2020 to 2030, that means roughly 55% increase between these 11 years. Combine that with 46%, so Germany is already on its way to produce 100% electricity from clean sources of power production by 2030. Now, when it comes to EU as a whole, Germany plays a very important role. For example, The total installed capacity of lignite-based power plants in Germany represents roughly 50% of the installed lignite power production capacity in EU as a whole. On hard coal, the total installed capacity in Germany represents roughly 25% of the cumulative installed hard coal capacity in EU 28. So if Germany would decommission lignite and hard coal, this would be excellent for EU when it comes to reducing its reliance on coal and, of course, reducing its emissions, greenhouse gases emissions. Because, as we all know, coal is the dirtiest source to produce electricity and is a thing that we really need to eliminate from our power equation if we really want to mitigate climate change. And your administration is already doing that. But as I said before, pace can always be increased. Thank you. Like, for example, in year 2017, if we would consider the greenhouse gases emissions from lignite-based power plants in Germany, they roughly produced like 158 million tons of CO2 in year 2017 from Germany. Hard coal-based power plants in year 2017 produced another 77 million tons of CO2 from Germany. So roughly in 2017 year, the power production sector from the sources of hard coal and lignite collectively produced 235 million tons of CO2 on an annual basis for the year 2017 for Germany. And this is only the emissions from the power production sector, coal-based power production sector in Germany for year 2017. According to Federal Environment Agency in Germany, 1 ton of CO2 emission causes a damage of somewhere like 180 euros. So if we would multiply that 235 million tons of CO2 emissions from both hard coal and lignite-based power plants with 180 euros of damage that per ton of CO2 emission does, roughly it would be 42,300 million euros or 42.3 billion euros. This is basically the loss that the CO2 emission on per annum basis in year 2017 took place because of the emissions that in the first part took place from the hard coal-based power plants in Germany and lignite-based power plants in Germany. So it is actually a loss of 42.3 billion euros on an annual basis from coal-based power plants in Germany. Over a span of a decade, this would mean 423 billion euros. That is a very big amount, and that can really, if your administration would decommission coal-based power plants by, let's say, like by 2030, you can actually save this amount, and this is the amount that you can actually invest to make Germany an even more sustainable place to live in. For example, you can actually choose this amount to invest on hydrogen-based transport sector that in Lower Saxony you're already implementing on pilot basis, but you can actually expand that to the rest of the Germany too and rest of the EU 28 as well. You can actually use this 423 billion euros of loss that coal-based power plants would do from Germany in terms of emissions over the coming 10 years to expand hydrogen-based transport for the rest of the Germany and for the rest of the EU too. Thank you. So, what can we do when it comes to increasing the share of renewables, particularly solar photovoltaics in Germany? The answer is really simple. For example, over the span of the decades, the brown coal mining in Germany has actually destroyed an area of something like 1773 square kilometers in Germany. According to Fraunhofer ISC Institute, if 25% of this area would be covered with solar PV panels, Germany would have a technical installed solar PV capacity of 55 gigawatts. If we would turn 50% of this 1773 square kilometers of the destroyed brown coal mining areas in Germany with solar panels, that would roughly means a cumulative installed capacity of 100 gigawatts of solar PV. That would be more than enough to decommission nuclear power plant, nuclear technology, brown coal and hard coal from the energy equation in Germany. Last thing that I would like to say is like the total cumulative installed capacity of Germany in March 2019 was 40 gigawatts, out of which 19 gigawatts were from lignite, another 21 gigawatts was from hard coal, and this is the figures reflected from the USEIA. So decommissioning 40 gigawatts of coal in terms of lignite and hard coal is actually possible for Germany. You're on your way, but what we can do is to increase our pace to achieve this goal as quickly as we can to create a sustainable future that for not only for us but for our coming generations. And another thing, last thing as I would like to say, if you would be able to do that by year 2030, you would actually create a practical example, particularly for United States of America and for Donald Trump, that implementing Paris Agreement is possible. So can be the case for Scott Morrison in the Australia, that a swift transition to 100% renewable as a source of power production is possible, and we can actually implement Paris Agreement and limit temperature increase to 1.5 degrees. Thank you for your attention and have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye.